Welcome everyone to the regular council session of the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc on Tuesday, February 18th, 2025. Municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc acknowledges that it is located on Treaty 21 territory. We are thankful to the generations of people who have taken care of this land, including the Chippewa of the Thames First Nation, the Munsee Delaware First Nation, and the Oneida Nation of the Thames. Roll call. Councillor Woolsey looks like he is absent. Councillor Derbyshire, do you have his proxy if needed? Okay, thank you. And at this time, I'd like to introduce our interim CAO, Mr. Rob Brown. Rob, thank you. We'll be gentle on you for the first 15 minutes. Call to approve the agenda. We do have some amendments. The motion will be that the February 18th, 2025 regular council meeting agenda be approved with the following amendments. Removal of consideration of item 9.5.2, the service delivery review implementation report. Removal of consideration of item 9.5.4, strategic priorities schedule of reports. Removal of an in-camera discussion of the service delivery review. Addition of bylaw number 27-25, appointing Rob Browning as interim chief administrative officer for the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc. We have a motion to approve those amendments. Councillor Pelkman, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Next motion we need to do is a bylaw. The motion is this. The bylaw number 27-15, appointing Rob Browning as interim chief administrative officer effective February 18, 2025. Receive first, second, third, and final reading. Someone to bring a motion. Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Pelkman. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move to our first item on the agenda, which is the BDO Canada, the Strathroy-Caradoc Housing Corporation review. Motion to receive the report first. Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? Carried. Gentlemen are going to be joining us virtually. Remember right, that's Alan, correct Alan?
Yes.
You can hear us okay? Yep.
My colleague Collins advised that he's going to reboot and join us hopefully soon again.
Well, he's got a fantastic name, so we'll give him some leeway. So with that, we'll, when you're ready, turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. So first off, apologies for not being able to join you in person. I think that's all for the better now in any case, because I'm losing out of the battle with a terrible cold, so I'll keep my germs to myself. I'd like to share my screen with a very brief presentation. Oh, I'm not able to share my screen. May I have permission to share?
We're working on it.
There we go. I think that's working. Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Yep. Yes, we are.
Excellent. Okay. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for this opportunity to join today. As you are aware, my firm BDO Canada was retained to perform an operational review of the Strathroy-Caradoc Housing Corporation, and in particular, the construction of Caradoc Place. I'm going to provide a very brief overview of our work, and then invite questions. It's a very brief overview, so I'll ask that you hold your questions to the end. As you know, our work was split into phases. The first phase being a diagnostic or scope exercise to identify potential areas of concern that would merit further investigation. The objective of the first phase was to collect information from the current council and other stakeholders, primarily the current council, to identify areas of concern and apparent deficiencies or risk in the operating procedures and activities of the Housing Corporation. We sought to confirm whether these concerns were corroborated by information that's available through documentary records or anecdotal accounts, and thus also whether they can be investigated. The scope of our work included interviews conducted with staff and the current council, as well as review of documentation provided to us for our review and some brief external research that we conducted for context. The results of our work are set out in our report, which I believe is attached to the agenda materials for this meeting. We've categorized our work into three main buckets, but I want to provide some general or contextual comments at the outset. Firstly, I think it's worthwhile noting that there was broad consensus across all the stakeholders that we interviewed about the concerns and whether they felt problems existed in the project. And so, pretty much there were recurring themes in the discussions that we had with all the stakeholders about where they felt improvements could be made or where deficiencies existed, or generally why they were uncomfortable with the project. It's also important to note that there were no allegations, no specific allegations of wrongdoing or misconduct. There was no allegations of impropriety, if you will. However, there are many who are clearly unhappy with the process. And based on our discussion, we think that the matter can be summarized as follows. The Caradoc Place building has been constructed. However, it is now located at a different location than was originally contemplated. It's been constructed but at a higher cost than originally expected. And it's been constructed at a higher investment required from the municipality than was originally indicated. And so understandably, people want to know why. So in each of the categories that I've listed here, and that we'll dive into a little more detail in the following slides, we're going to explore the factors that we believe contributed to the current state. So first off, with respect to project governance, there were decisions made about the project. However, based on our discussions, it is not necessarily clear by whom those decisions were made, or whether those parties had authority to make those decisions. In particular, whether it's the housing corporation or the municipality. As the owner of a project, it stands to reason that the housing corporation made decisions as the owner, but fundamentally, it relies upon the corporation, or sorry, relies upon the municipality for financial support. And therefore, questions were raised as to whether the municipality or the council of the day was appropriately consulted or had an opportunity to weigh in on those decisions. In addition, there were concerns about the communications or reporting that was provided to the council of the day. There were concerns about the clarity of that information or the timing of the information. At times, some stakeholders reported that it felt like the decisions had been made or were quote unquote a done deal, and that council would have little ability to influence those decisions. Another key area would be project management. As we alluded to, there were significant changes to the project, including a change of site, a change of the source of financing or the availability of financing, but the decision making regarding those decisions is not clear. There were questions about whether there were specific go or no-go decisions and who they were made by. Now, based on our initial review of available documents, there were decisions being made, but the question again goes back to whether those decisions were being made by the appropriate party or with appropriate consultation. There were also questions about the technical expertise both at the Housing Corporation and also at the municipality. There appears to be a sense of significant reliance on the external advisors to the project, primarily the general contractor and architect. But there were questions as to whether the Housing Corporation or the municipality had sufficient in-house expertise to provide the necessary and appropriate oversight. And of course, there were questions raised about the procurement of contractors, being that the two main contractors, the general contractor, two main contracts, the general contractor and architect, were sole source vendors. And again, there's no allegations, there were no allegations of wrongdoing, but there were questions about whether and why those were sole source contracts. And lastly, perhaps most importantly, is the broad category of project financing. There were questions raised about whether the appropriate budgeting process was undertaken by both the Housing Corporation for the project and by the municipality. Based on our preliminary review, there do appear to have been budgets set. There were budgets that were prepared at the time. However, they may not have been duly shared or disseminated across the appropriate stakeholders. Frankly, in some cases, councillors did not recall or did not believe that budgets were shared with them to make decisions that they were being asked to make. But aside from that, there were also questions about whether the budget was duly, or budgets were duly updated from time to time to reflect significant changes in the project, such as a change of site, the loss of the CMHC funding, the loss of the FCM grant for the solar panels. There were questions about whether those significant events were adequately reflected in the budgets and those budgets shared with stakeholders and decision makers. There was also a healthy amount of discussion about not just the cost of the project, but also whether the financial oversight was sufficiently robust. So not just about the cost of the project, but the timing of the cash flows that would be incurred with respect to the project. The timing of the cash flows could have significant impact on the financial requirements of the project, including demands of the municipality or placed upon the municipality to provide cash flow to fund the project. And so those were broadly the areas that we identified as being risks or deficiencies in the process in construction of Caradoc Place. As a result of those observations, we derived a series of recommendations that were set out in the appendix of our report. The purpose of these recommendations is to set out proposed procedures and the estimated fees that will be attached to those procedures, to answer questions about the scope of the deficiencies that we've identified, the cause or causes of those deficiencies, the recommendations to avoid a similar outcome in the future. It's worth noting that we provided an overall estimate of the fees should be asked to perform all the procedures recommended. And we've also provided estimates for individual procedures, but please note that those estimates assume that each procedure would be performed on a standalone basis. There would of course be efficiencies such as in review documentations or conducting interviews if we were to perform multiple recommended procedures. So that's what I have for a presentation. I would invite questions at this point.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to questions. I'm just going to start by asking a question myself, if you may, if you indulge me. The question is about allegations of wrongdoing. That's from a 30,000 foot level. Would a deeper dive, would it, may it produce something different? Because I understand we presented documents to you, some without context, some without, a whole lot of discussion. So your comment about, possible, maybe wrongdoing, would going further down into the weeds show something different, or could it show something different?
It's possible, but in our interviews with councillors in particular, we did ask whether there were concerns about any misconduct. And in every instance, the answer was no, not that I'm aware of, or something similar to that effect. The reason why I say it's possible is because in our line of work, this is what we do encounter. And in construction, in particular, there's always that risk. There's always supply chain risk. But in this case, there were no interviews that indicated to us any suspicions of wrongdoing.
Okay, I'm gonna open up for questions. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship, and to Mr. Mack, thank you for your work on the project so far. If we were to move forward, are there milestone events where we could have you come back and report to us? So I see your chart and estimates in the background, and I'm trying to figure out how I would deal with that. So do you feel doing this type of work, you would see you know, 4 or 5 milestone events where you would come back and report and say, like, do you want us to continue on? This is what is revealed to date. This is your cost to date. You want us to move forward so that we can continuously reevaluate the work being done based upon the information that's being garnered.
Yes, and thank you for your question. In the normal course of our work as investigators, that's exactly how we would proceed. Understandably, fees and costs are always a consideration in these matters. And so the way we proceed would be, we'll agree on the scope of our work, but not only that, we'll agree on the procedures that we're going to conduct. And so it's commonplace for us to set regular, perhaps not milestones, but intervals for reporting, so that we can report to the client, yourself, what we've done, what its costs, and our observations to date. And you can make the decision whether to continue or not. In this case, I would actually recommend a further layer. We identified 3 broad categories, but also within each category, there are subsets of issues. You may wish to prioritize which ones you actually are most interested in. And we can tackle those first or tackle those only. And then we'll provide updates as to our progress on those matters, but I'll also give you greater visibility and control over the budget.
Thank you. Councillor Pelkman, then Councillor Palmer.
Yes, thank you. You know, the whole process that just took place in was a time that is likely to never be replicated again. You know, I did not step foot inside this building for 3 years when all these decisions were made. It was all done virtually. There were supply chain disruptions, cost escalations. So in terms of you know, the escalation of the cost, do I think there was any wrongdoing? I don't believe that anybody did anything illegal or pocketed any cash. I think there were process mistakes, and I think there was timing mistakes, which I think you've identified, maybe not specifically when it was, but you've identified that the issue is when we set out to do this, the point was to make sure that it never happened again. And what I see here is a lot of money to be spent to find out that the questions we already know is that, you know, decisions were probably made before council approved them, or we made them under duress because we didn't really have any options. So to me, my question is from the work that you've done, could you put together a list of recommendations so that this never happens again?
From the work that we've done so far, no. That's the intention of phase 2, to get to the root causes of the deficiencies and risks that we've identified.
Councillor Palmer.
Sorry. So I just have a couple of comments. One is in the report under the financial, you talk about the fact that, or you say that it wasn't clear, you didn't see the cash flow analysis, when the grants were lost, you didn't see any budgets. But I know for a fact that those budgets existed, and we had pro formas, and the pro formas were updated when the grants were, we no longer got the grants. Those pro formas were updated. Most of them were done by the consulting firm, and I'm just wondering, did you not get them, or because this reads like you didn't see any budgets, and I know there were budgets.
So yeah, I mean, that's a good question, it's a fair question. So yes, we did see budgets. Originally, when this report was prepared and issued, there were budgets earlier in the project that appeared to be missing. Subsequently, in speaking with Tricia, it turns out that there were budgets that were attached to materials, but we didn't get the attachments. So that's why I say that there were budgets from our oral presentation, but we haven't had a chance to review those in detail yet. Nevertheless, it stands that in many instances of the councils I've interviewed, they were concerned that either they had not seen them or they were not sure that they existed. So it wouldn't just be an issue on our scope.
Yep. Councillor Pammer, follow.
Okay, yeah, thank you. The other question I had is that you say for the next phase, you list, I think, 10 or 11 people that you would want to interview. Only one of them is still employed by the municipality or is still an elected here at the municipality in some capacity. What makes you think that they would participate? And if they didn't participate, how would you move forward? That's my question.
Well, we can't compel them. If they're not employees, we can't compel them to do it. We would invite them to sit down with us. If they choose not to, we would note that in our report. We would still be able to review the records and try to piece together what happened and come up with our recommendations and analysis.
Yep, Councillor Derbyshire.
Thank you. Through you to, I guess I'm gonna say probably us. This thing was voted on like in July. It took till December and a whole bunch of phone calls, emails, and anything to even get this remotely started and processed. And for $15,000, we end up with this, which is exactly what we told whatever that guy's name is that showed up in July. This doesn't do anything more than what we already knew when we all sat around the horseshoe. So I just don't know where to even keep going from here, you know, which was actually discussed in July when there was phase 1, 2, and 3 and no answer and no money and no follow-up. Whereas we could have picked another source that laid it out in for 60,000. We knew what we were getting. Even phase 2, which exact dollar amount did we pick out of here? 40, 13, like 33? Like, is this just like going into to get a car wash? You just pick what package you want here, and this is what we're gonna do for this money. I'm not trying to make a joke. Like, I mean, it's frustrating to have sat this long waiting to see something of any substance, and we got exactly what we knew. So, I don't even know what to do with this, let alone proceed forward with no idea as to what we're going to really get coming down the line. So, I mean, that would be my question when I look at what your phase 1 even said. I don't really think we got what we were looking for out of phase 1. That's just my opinion. I know we're not supposed to criticize, but to me, it's not what we thought we were getting. You know, no documents were reviewed, nothing was looked at, we couldn't find anything, it wasn't given. You know, like, it doesn't even, it is what it is.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Councillor Kennis.
Not really a question, well, I guess it is a question. I recall that we were also having a financial review done by someone, like another source. Just wondered where that was at. And then beyond that, you know, I don't think we're able to make a decision tonight. I think we've got a new CAO that should get himself a bit more familiar with this case before we look at going any further, and to give it some thought. I mean, I could see, you know, I could see doing this, but boy, 250,000 could go help in a lot of other ways within the municipality as well. So, and I'm not sure in the end what difference that report would make as well. Like, I firmly believe there's no, although I can't guarantee that there's was any fraudulent activity, but I do believe there were mistakes made along the way, and I'm not sure a report would make a difference in correcting those. As Councillor Pelkman said, I think it provides us a bit of a guide moving forward for these types of projects. And certainly I think some of the things we've talked about and some of the other stuff we're looking at, like project manager, I guess this would certainly illustrate the benefit of a project manager in-house for these types of projects as well. So I guess first question is, where are we at with the financial?
You won't know about this yet, so I'm gonna ask Director Dakin. Would you know where we asked for a third-party review of the board's request? Do you know where that's at?
Through the chair to the chair, my understanding is contact has been made with the individual. I know I've spoken to him about sending him documentation that has been sent to him, so I think that's kind of where we're at. He has the information.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor had his hand up first, and we'll go to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. You know, this issue at large has been a huge concern for certainly Ward 2, but I think the community at large. Certainly heavily discussed during the last election, and it continues to hang over this municipality. A lot of the comments here is, we don't know what we're going to get out of it. You're right, we don't. But it's a bigger question, that the community has told us very clearly that they expect transparency on this file and they want to know what occurred. A whole bunch of questions, but they're very clear. Certainly they've been extremely clear with me. They want to know what occurred. I don't like the dollar values that are being attached to it, but I'm not prepared to carte blanche say that I'm not going to go for transparency because of a dollar value. This is a $10.5 million project, $10.2 million project. At the time it started. This council didn't start it. We inherited it. We can't answer the questions being asked of us, but we need to answer the questions, and there's no other ways to do it. At the end of the day, there would be full transparency if we moved ahead, but more than that, then we can find out what policies we would need to put in place to ensure it doesn't happen again. I don't think we start with the question of, let's just put a policy in place to make sure it never happens again. That's not transparency.
Thank you. You indulge me, Councillor, let me just, because I want to answer a question. I can think of 3 million reasons why we need to delve deeper into this. There's $3 million of taxpayer money that's been put into this project. But I gotta be careful with my words here. Councillor Derbyshire, I'm a little disappointed because I had shared some documents with the team from BDO that I had hoped would be made public that may sway council's mind. And I want to be careful what I say. I have concerns. I have concerns about the propriety of a couple of actions. Some of those documents I had given to the team, and I think they need to, in some form, become public. I think in some form, that's why I asked the question, if you were to dig deeper into those documents, look at the timing, look at the authorities, look at who signed what, if that may point in different directions. I'm being very careful, council, to couch my words, but I do have concerns, and it's based on a couple of documents, and I know it's unfair to council to talk about a document that you haven't seen, but I will show it, that I had shared. So for my thing, I can think of 3 million reasons why we need to dig into this deeper, and I have concerns myself about propriety in some of the transactions. Councillor Derbyshire.
Thank you. So I'm along the same wavelength there. Like, to me, I can't tell people what the answer is because I don't know what it is. So to go and say, let's put a policy in place, what are we gonna say? You're not allowed to do this again? And what is this? What have we done wrong? How is council gonna learn? And to say we'll just put a project manager in place, well, then that's just taking the onus off of us, who still has to then either say yay or nay to what is being proposed with moving forward. If we don't understand what we did wrong and why it went awry and where it went so far south, then that's really on us. Like, if we're not gonna get educated and figure out what's went wrong here, then it's probably bound to repeat itself. I'm not saying spend $250,000 to educate ourselves. That's not what I'm saying. I thought, if we can get out of here with $30,000 to $40,000 and have a decent understanding of where it went awry, why it went wrong, and maybe the steps and procedures that we should do next time. That's what I was looking for, and that's honestly what I thought we were gonna get a little more clarity just to help us to start with. So I would be looking just probably to defer this or move it to another meeting where we can have a more fruitful discussion about what's being done.
Councilor Brennan.
I have a question for the consultant through the mayor, and it has to do, I think, some figures on, it says in red, page 10, but on my tablet it says 12 to 17. Recommended scope of investigation for phase 2, A, B, C, D. And it's right before we get into the detailed list of fees. It said D, should council wish to have BDO conduct all of the recommended procedures in phase 2, we estimate fees of $115,000 to $125,000. Now, I went out and I added up all the individual ones, taking the small number, and I came up with about $234,000. But I see this this idea here that we could have BDO conduct all of the recommended procedures for fees between $115,000 to $125,000. My question to the consultant, Mr. Mack, is, am I reading that correctly? That between $115,000 to $125,000 would be the price for doing everything in phase 2, as opposed to the a la carte $234,000 if we were to go through and pick from the list that follows that? I'm not quite sure if I'm reading this correctly.
Yes, sir, that's absolutely correct. The 115 to 125 is our estimated fee for all the procedures. As I mentioned earlier, the a la carte price assumes that each item is done as a standalone mandate. And so if we were to do all the procedures, there's going to be efficiencies overlap in the work that we do, which would result in the lower overall price.
Just to follow up on that, and what would the timeline for that? If we went for the 115 to 125, when would we expect to see the completion of work and a report back to council?
I'd say that's a 2 to 3 month project.
Okay, with that said, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Feel free, Councilor.
Because I think we're a decision-making body and not a debate club, I'd like to make the motion that we proceed with having BDO conduct all the recommended procedures for in phase 2 for a fee not to exceed $125,000, and I'd be looking for a seconder.
Councilor Hippel, there's lots of seconders. You have a question?
I have a request. My initial question was reporting back on a regular basis so that we can track it. Good governance. Is there a way to work that into the motion that you're like at the 125, and furthermore that BDO report back to this council on a regular basis, set milestones? You get it.
Through the chair to me. I think what I was proposing was that we just go with the 125 with a report at the end of 3 months, because that's what I heard. And if we do spend the 125, have everything done, and have a report on our desks in 90 days, I'm more than happy to go with that motion, and I'd be looking for a second for that.
Okay, Councilor Hippel, second. Any questions? Sorry, Councilor Cass.
I'll give up and I'll vote for this. I'm just concerned that if this doesn't meet the requirements of the masses out there carrying their pitchforks, which are not that many to begin with, what then? And that's a rhetorical question. I'm not expecting an answer, but where's the stop? And there are lots of things in the Queen Street building need to be renovated. And like I said, the money would be well spent on that as well. Not criticizing the consultants or the job being done. I'm just saying in the end, are there better ways to spend $125,000 or whatever the final amount is going to be? So anyway, I would vote yes, but I hope that when this report's received, that all will be satisfied.
Okay, thank you. So we have a second motion, no further questions. All in favor? Opposed, if any, carried. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Next is a public meeting amendment for the property located at 320 Metcalf Street West. Ontario. Motion to open the public meeting. Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Derbyshire. All in favor? Carried. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is a application for a property on Metcalfe Street West. It's at Buchanan. This is just west of, or sorry, just east of the arena and park area. You'll see that on the screen now. In terms of just sort of to the left is the hockey rink. Across the street is parkland and future development. To the right-hand side or east and sort of, I guess, to a certain extent north are residential dwellings. This is a property that has an existing business operation. Used to be headstones and vacuum cleaning repair. They had parking in the along the street, on this particular drawing, which is slightly turned from the previous drawing. It was along the street, similar to the way that it's shown here. The applicants are looking to add to the permitted uses in this neighborhood C3 zone for office use, which isn't in the listed of permitted uses in the neighborhood commercial zone category. So they're looking for that addition. At the same time, they realize that there is a future addition possible. And so they look to also adjust the parking so that they could have additional parking if and when they move forward with that renovation. And so there is a provision in the zoning bylaw that asks that parking not be in the front yard, and so they're asking for a deviation from that requirement. So that's what's before you today. The property is designated residential. It's zoned neighborhood commercial. The residential zone designation allows for minimal commercial uses such as this. But we have to keep in mind that this is also a property that's located on a major arterial within the municipality. Metcalfe Street is a county road as well. And if we move to the next slide, we'll just see a little bit larger version of the same plan. There are dotted line at the back, which would show a possible future residential unit on the second floor. However, again, that's possible and potential in the future. It's permitted in the zoning to allow for residential uses on second floors of commercial operations. So that's within the zoning, but it's another piece that's being shown on this drawing. If we move to the next, it just speaks to agency comments. There were no public comments prior to tonight's meeting. But in terms of engineering, there were some safety items that were noted with having the number of cars that just directly park onto the property and then would be backing out onto Buchanan, especially during maybe those times of the day when the arena is being used at a greater rate. And so the revised plan shows more parking out in front of the building. And that was to allow for additional cars to be entering back onto the street in a forward motion, which is preferred by engineering. We'll get into some of the other site lines and other site plan related matters at a site plan stage if they choose to go through with the expansion. St. Clair Region Conservation Authority also referenced that they would, at building permit stage, require a consultation with them for flood regulations. But from a perspective of adding the use of office to the property, they had no objection to that. Same thing with the Safety and Standards Officer. That's a county employee looking at addressing and alike. And if that was if this was successful, they would address unit numbers and alike going forward during that time. In light of all of this, if we move to the next, this is just the policy, I've kind of already run through this already, that it's within the settlement boundary, and so this is a adaptive reuse of an existing building and an expansion of that same. And so it's something that staff are recommending approval for, because it's considered consistent with the provincial planning statement, as well as conforming with the OPD, both local and county of Middlesex. And it represents good planning. I'm available for comments and questions as needed. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Any comments in support of the result? Yes. You go to the, yep.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Costa. I am the agent acting for the sellers of 320 Metcalfe Street West. If you have any questions, please let me know. I am obviously in support of this application. I think that the enhancement that these owners are planning to do will definitely beautify Strathroy in a very positive way, especially at such a focal point of our arena. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments in support? Any comments in opposition? Any comments and questions from members of council? Okay. I just have one, and it's more on a procedure thing. I apologize. I notice we're silent on any concerns that the conservation area may have, right? I know that's their bailiwick. We don't comment on, that's the next stage in a permit. It's more of a general, it's not concerning this, I just noticed that.
So to be clear, the property is within the regulated area, but the item before you tonight is a rezoning to allow for one additional use on the property. And a use per se doesn't necessarily, unless we were talking about something like a nursing home where people were unable to get easily in and out of the building, then flooding would be a factor, and we might not want that use in the floodplain. This is an office use, so we're not seeing that same sort of situation. And so the Conservation Authority did raise the fact that they would want to be consulted when a new building comes in, so that we could deal with things like flood proofing if it was necessary, just have a lip on that threshold along the door, that sort of thing, so that the buildings don't get flooded and the like. So similar things like that.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions from members of council? Seeing none, a motion to close the public meeting. Councillor Palkman, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Carried. There are two motions in front of you. This report regarding zoning application, ZBA 15-2024 for 320 Metcalfe Street West be received for information. And further, the bylaw number 17-25 be referred to the consideration of bylaws section of the agenda for adoption. I'll bring a motion. Councillor Pammers, second by Councillor Pelkman. All in favor? Carried. Public meeting number 2. The purpose of this public meeting is to consider the zoning bylaw amendment for the property located at 7008 Glendon Drive, Melbourne, Ontario. Motion to open the public meeting. Councillor Derbyshire, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Carried. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is a property on the north side of Glendon Drive, just west of Glen Oak. It's at that corner intersection. There is technically a property that is right at the corner. This has frontage on both Glen Oak and Glendon. You can see that in the yellow area of this image. And the surplus farm dwelling that is associated with this application is a red box in the bottom of that area. So this is a rezoning from A1 to A2-39 and A3-11, and this is to address that existing severance, which was approved provisionally in 2024, and now they're coming forward with the rezoning application to address that those zoning matters. This is something that council has seen a number of times, so I won't get too deep into the weeds here. It is a rural property. It's agriculturally designated. It's one of the parts of the severance process to ensure that the remaining agricultural lands don't end up with a additional residential unit on them in the future, and preserves that existing agricultural uses on the property. The site-specific nature of this zone category is just to address some of the simply two items. One is that there's an accessory building on the severed lot, the surplus farm dwellings lot, and that also the minimum lot frontage on the remaining agricultural lands is less than what is required in the A3 zone category. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and a bylaw is before council as well.
Thank you. Any comments in support of the rezoning? Any comments in opposition? Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. If I may, I will recognize that Irene Verveld did register to participate virtually, but I do not see her on the call.
Okay, thank you. Any comments and questions from members of council? Seeing none, motion to close the public meeting. Councillor Derbyshire, second by the Deputy Mayor. All in favor? Carried. The two motions in front of you are the report BBP 2025-07 regarding rezoning application ZBA 3-2025 for 7008 Glendon Drive. Be received for information. And then bylaw number 11-25 be referred to the consideration of bylaws section of the agenda for adoption. Someone bring a motion. Councillor Hippel, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Carried. There's one set of minutes in front of you this evening for approval. That is the regular council meeting minutes of February 3rd, 2025. Someone bring a motion to approve the minutes. Councillor Brennan, second by the Deputy Mayor. All in favor? Carried. There are 4 communications in front of you this evening, 2 of which need approval. The other 2, 7.1 to 7.3, motion to receive them for information. Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Hippel. Are there any questions?
7.1 and 2, right?
Yeah, 7.1, yes, so I apologize, 7.1, 7.2. Good catch, Councillor. All in favor? Carried. 7.2, you're correct, is the noise exemption request for 72 High Street in Strathroy. Any questions on that exemption? See none, motion to approve. Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Carried. 7.4 is Alexandra Park, Strathroy Hometown Festival. Noise exemption request June 12th to the 15th, 2025. Motion. Councillor Pelkman, second by Councillor Hippel. Any questions or concerns? Councillor Derbyshire.
Thank you. Just one question. The only address I see on here is 8 Charles Boulevard, Strathroy, Ontario. But that's not Strathroy, that's Adelaide Metcalf. So it's not actually address. I know it says Alexandria Park, Strathroy, Ontario, but the actual address of the event is not.
Yeah, go ahead, Brandon. Or is that for the person who's requesting it? I don't know.
Yes.
The only actual address that is written on here is 8 Charles Boulevard, Strathroy, Ontario, which isn't. That's all I'm saying. I understand where it's going to Alexander Park. It's just.
Yeah, they haven't taken us over yet, Councillor. Not that I'm aware of, but
No, I just was wondering how that works.
I think that was the person who applied for it. That's where they live. But
Yeah. And then,
yeah.
Yes, so clarifying, it does say the address of the event or activity on the application is listed as Alexandra Park, Strathroy, Ontario. And that's above the numerical address that was listed.
Okay. Further questions? All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. There are a number of motions. We'll deal with them Next time. Reports from the departments is the update to procedure bylaw. Motion to receive the report. Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Pelkman. All in favor? Carried. Wish to speak to the report? Brianna.
Sure. Just briefly, through the chair to members, before you this evening is the updated procedure bylaw. This incorporates a number of the updates requested by council back in September, and I can confirm that this has undergone a legal review as well and is now back with us. The larger items would be council's direction that a process be established to receive delegations from the public regarding items on published council agendas, that the provision for proxy voting be removed, that a reference be included noting that council does not issue proclamations, that council endorse a proposed process for notices of motion that would expedite said process, and that council incorporate inquiries and comments by members as it stands currently on the agenda into the procedure bylaw update. So I can confirm that all of those updates have been made, and I do recommend approval this evening if council is in alignment. Thank you.
Any question? Councillor Pelkman.
Yes, thank you. So, I want to make sure my understanding is correct with the notices of motion. So if, for instance, we were to take the motions that were on tonight, we could discuss them and make a decision on them tonight?
Through the chair and Councillor Pelkman, that is correct. So the publication of the notices on the agenda, or of the motions on the agenda, would serve as the notice.
So I can't vote for that reason alone. I would agree that the process we have now is too long, but we're still having a notice, having discussion and making a decision without the opportunity to have staff input. So what I would really prefer is that we have the motion presented, we have discussion, and then at the next meeting, we would pass them, because that would give us the ability to think about what was said. Because when I think back to the first 6 months of this council, there were so many motions thrown out that would have been disastrous had we approved them on the spur of the moment. And so I'm just a little worried about motions being approved without careful consideration about the impact of it. Because I'll admit, over the course of the last 2 years, there's been motions that I've voted against just because I'm not willing to vote for them in the time frame that they're being presented for us. And that was before we instituted the process that we have now. But that would still speed the process up by a couple of weeks. But I can't vote for it when it's the same night.
Deputy Mayor.
So I appreciate what Councillor Pelkman is saying. However, there's no need to put that in the bylaw, because you have motions available to you that allow you to defer or refer or table or a whole bunch of other things with motions if you want. So if something comes up in front of us, we should be allowed to deal with it. If somebody wanted to defer, of course, the motion to defer or a motion to refer trumps the original motion, and it can be sent off to staff for a report or consideration or whatever. So I think if we use the motions that we have available to us within the procedures bylaw, you can do all of the stuff that you're looking for. But if a motion is up in front of us, duly posted, and council wishes to deal with it, we should be able to deal with it.
Councillor Derbyshire.
Sorry, and I guess just for clarification, like even if it sits there this week and the next week, the staff is still not able to report on it. So, like, if it sits there 2 weeks, where if we see it and don't see it, like you're still not gonna get a staff report, like using the system we have now. All it does is sit up there one more time. Staff actually, in my honest, I think, they're not allowed to, you shouldn't be having discussions about that, because they weren't asked to give a report on it.
That's correct.
So, like that's where if you want a staff report, you would just motion that we refer this back to staff for a report and move forward. Just like we would do if it waits now till now. Like, same thing when we see a report come forward that we haven't seen. We have exactly, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday now to deal with it. So if we don't like it, we defer it, refer it, ask staff to clarify. I understand what you're saying, where you'd like staff to have some input into it, but even the process we have now doesn't allow staff to have input into motions without us requesting them to have input into it. So all this does is put it on the docket, open it up for debate, and at that point, it's not sitting there for 2 weeks, or 2 meetings, sorry.
Any other questions, comments? Councillor Hippel. So raise your hand up again, because we'll get you after.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Sorry.
Through yourself, I did have a couple of questions by some of the people in the public. They were asking me about the proxy voting. So just through yourself to Brianna, the proxy, what we were taking away, what we put in there, was that what we're using tonight with Councillor Wilsey being away, Councillor Derbyshire has his proxy, but what we've done, or what we've put in there, is that would no longer happen. So if you were away, you don't have a vote, correct? Thank you.
Councillor Derbyshire.
Thank you. I did have a question about the delegation. They have up till Friday to present and ask for a delegation. Can the delegation be refused, or are they put on as long as they provide whatever written or whatever kind of notice they're supposed to provide? I just wondered what the rules are for, like, are they guaranteed a spot or no?
Through the chair to Councillor Derbyshire, so it would still be subject to the same rules that exist now, which generally they have to be in the sphere of local government, which if it's on the agenda, it more than likely is. We would still review the content because it would have to be posted. Currently, we have 4 slots available that would remain the same with a time limit of 5 minutes. So again, it would still be subject to review, but through the exact same process that exists now, and people would be able to delegate in regards to items on the agenda instead of putting forward a new matter. That other process also exists.
Any other questions? Seeing none, the motion is that bylaw number 20-25 be forwarded to the consideration of bylaws section of the agenda for adoption. Someone bring a motion. Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Derbyshire. All in favor? Opposed, if any? One carried. Building and planning. This is phase 2 of Queensway Drive. Jake DeRitter will be joining us. Motion to receive the report for information first. Councillor Canis, second by Councillor Pelkman. All in favor? Carried. Jake, your turn.
Thank you, Chair. Keep it going pretty short, but this is for an assumption of subdivision, Queensway Drive subdivision in Strathroy. It's just east of Queen Street and north of Carroll Street. The primary street that's being assumed is Queensway Drive. The original subdivision started around 2016, and this is the final phase of that subdivision. Over the past year or so, we've been working with the developer to fix up a few things, fix up the sidewalks and curbs, stuff like that, and they've satisfied everything in the subdivision agreement, so it is ready for execution now. Thank you.
You had me at short and sweet, Jake. Thank you. Any questions for Jake? Okay. Seeing none, the motion is that bylaw number 19-25 be forwarded to the consideration of bylaws section of the agenda for adoption. Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? Carried. Community services, sports field lighting update at YCP, that's York Community Park, and the Welsh Ball Diamond. Motion to receive for information first. Councillor Pammer, second by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? Carried. Director Littlemore.
Thank you, Your Worship. This also will be short and sweet. Identified in the 2025 approved capital budget was a replacement of 3 sets of high-intensity discharge lighting with state-of-the-art LED lighting. This replacement of lights will be the 2 remaining lit ball diamonds in Strathroy and the remaining lit soccer field at Yorkview Community Park. The cost of the project has come in under the approved budget. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? I have a comment. Thank you for Doug Welch. I know the community's asked for that. It's has some historical significance, so thank you to council and yourself for doing something at that park. Don't see any comments? All in favor of the council? We received it, did we not? We received it for information.
Correct, but for approval?
Yeah, I was gonna read the motion first.
Okay.
Yeah. Right, read it first, so, I'm gonna say the council approve Musco Sports Lighting to supply and install lighting and accessories for the following locations: Doug Welch Ball Diamond, YCP Soccer Field and Ball Diamond for a total value of $630,000 plus HST. Someone to bring a motion to approve. Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Pelkman. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Engineering and Public Works, the 2025 asphalt resurfacing road recommendation, EPW 2025-03. Motion to receive the report. Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Hippel. All in favor? Carried. Director Ortiz.
Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair to Council, in front of you is a report highlighting the asphalt resurfacing program being proposed to be completed this year. We're proposing to do 2 sections on Drury Lane and Railroad Street. The next step will be tendering of the actual work on bids and tenders. And this program is going to be funded by $400,000 that has been allocated in the 2025 budget. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Councillor Pelkman.
Just a point of clarification. So I understand that Railroad Street is going to be asphalt, but then also on the tar and chip budget is Juliana Drive. So technically that strip all the way through will be resurfaced.
Through the Chair, so for the asphalt resurfacing, we have it going from Adelaide through to Juliana Drive on the resurfacing project.
But did I not also see that Juliana Drive was on the tar and chip program?
Is it on it? I didn't see it yet.
So just for the public's sake, I just wanted them to understand that that whole passageway through is going to be resurfaced.
I have a request, Director. The Railroad Street has come in front of the traffic committee. I know that SCPD has been down. There's a speed problem on that street. There's some truck traffic. Would it be possible to have calming measures put in at the same time, or does that need to go to the traffic committee in order to get that done?
Yeah, requests such as this would be best put forward to the traffic committee for review.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause it is problematic down there. So, any further questions?
Which one are we dealing with?
The first one.
Asphalt.
Yeah, asphalt. Motion to council direct staff to proceed with tendering the 2025 asphalt resurfacing program for Drury Lane and Railroad Street. Motion, Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Pelkman. All in favor? Carried. The 2025 tar and chip recommendations. Motion to receive the report. Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Bammer. All in favor? Director Ortiz.
Thanks again, Chair. The report in front of you here is highlighting the planned tar and chip program to be completed this year. We're proposing to complete a total of 13.5 kilometers of tar and chip on Irish Drive and yes, Juliana Drive, that 150 meter stretch, Councillor Pelkman. Old Drive, Sutherland, and Falcon Bridge. I'd like to note that Public Works staff, we do undertake a significant amount of preliminary work that isn't always typical in the municipal sector. That does add a fair bit of value to the program. It allows us to do a kilometer of tar and chip for about $60,000 to $70,000 a kilometer, as opposed to about $130,000 for work that was identified in the road needs study. Overall, it enables us to do more tar and chip each year. This year, we will be funded by the 2025 budget line item of $915,000, and happy to take any questions.
Questions with Councillor Derbyshire, then Deputy Mayor, the Councillor Pelkman.
Thank you. I guess just when I kind of look at where we're at here, some of these aren't scheduled for 2 or 3 more years. I guess when I was thinking about chip and tar, I thought we were going to finish east to west, which Irish Drive, I know from Glen Oak over to Melbourne Road is still gravel. Whether it was ready for chip and tar, but I thought we did kind of have a plan where we were going to finish our east to west and then start north to south. So with taking, you know, whether that needs preparation money or whatever else, like Falconbridge to Sutherland says it really wasn't due till 2030, but now it's being adjusted by us, same with the other one. So it's not that I understand we're doing chip and tar work. I just think, you know, maybe we're better off trying to put some work into finishing off the rest of the roads and maybe getting away from graders. So
if you don't mind me piggybacking on yours, because I was gonna have the same concern. I mentioned it before to the manager of roads, Walter. Century East, where's the customer? The last piece of Century. I know it's less than half a kilometer, and the resident there has been requesting for years to have it. There's drainage issues. Now, I agree with Councillor Derbyshire that we should finish those east-west roads that aren't done. So that's going to be my comment. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I had recently a resident on Innandale between the tracks and McAvoy. So I believe it would have been last year, possibly the year before. That was tar and gravel. Apparently it didn't hold up well for whatever reason. And now the heavy machinery going up and down there, farm machinery, has caused a lot of issues there. Was that something the staff were aware of? Do you remember any notation about that? Would that fall into this budget, or is that something that would just be separately looked at as something we did and didn't hold up, and however you deal with that?
Through the chair to Deputy Mayor McGuire, I don't have any notes on Innandale myself at this point. It's something that we can look at. It's a balance between all the work that we have planned and allocated for this year is new work in that budget. This would be separate from that. If it's a construction issue, it's something we can look at the time of construction. It's a bit tough to go back a few years and hold the contractor's feet to the fire, but it's something we can look at, get our guys out and inspect, and if it warrants additional work, we can go and do spot repairs or allocate a future line item in the budget for that.
Councillor Hippel.
Thank you. Through yourself to Director Ortiz, and maybe actually to council as a whole, with Director Ortiz being fairly new, we have been discussing gravel. Actually, we've been discussing tar and chip gravel for quite a while, and perhaps this is something, I mean, I think we were discussing that we would like, well, not all of us agreed on this, but like we were discussing that we would like the gravel roads to be tar and chip. I mean, it just doesn't make sense, and I would agree with Councillor Derbyshire that maybe that's the path we need to take. But perhaps because, and I'm not talking about this year. This year, I like where you're going, and I understand that, but I think maybe we do need to have that second look again. Now we need to go back and with some fresh eyes and with us, and we need to say, okay, listen, here are our gravel roads, here are our tar and chip, and perhaps we need to be looking at that for 2026. That's just a thought.
Yeah, I don't know, like, this is appropriate, Councilor Derbyshire. I don't feel like walking down there to make a motion. So you can, there's probably to make a motion to look at the east-west, Century and Irish.
Yeah, I can re-motion that, we begin to finish off our east to west and then start working north to south with upcoming chip and tar allotments. I don't think we're gonna change this year.
No.
Actually, then I'll go down and make a motion.
Yeah.
If you can get it. And I want to bring this motion because these citizens have contacted numerous times. So I can make a motion to defer this report and have Director Ortiz come back with a plan to include those two roads in the budget, so that including the western edge of Irish, Councilor?
Yeah.
And the eastern last half kilometer of Century. So if you could just defer it to the next meeting and include those in. So that's my motion.
So the date of return is the next sitting of this council. Do we have a date for that, Madam Clerk? March 3rd, so return date on March 3rd. You made the motion, seconder? Councillor Derbyshire, conversation, comment? Councillor Hippel?
Yes, through yourself. Is this going to affect the budget though? Will that be, like, I mean, everything that you've done so far, by adding that in, like, monetarily, how is that going to affect the budget that we've had, that we put aside for you to do this?
Yeah, for point of clarification, I was gonna ask if you have to remove the other ones, to do it within the budget that's presented. I just say, these people, I know the one person, they've been trying to get it for 15 years, get their road tar and chip. So there's some importance to do it. So within the budget constraints that are in front of us. So that was my intention, Councilor.
So then the motion would be within budget constraints.
Yes.
Bring back a report.
Yeah.
Okay. You're okay with that, Councillor Derbyshire? Thank you. Councillor Hippel.
So then, I just have one more question then. So is there something on I know if you bring back this report, is there something on here that perhaps wouldn't be as important? I guess I'm just saying, I just want to make sure that we're not like shoving one important thing off for another important thing. I don't know. I'm not a roads guy, even though I am a fan of tar and chip, and I push for it all the time. But I don't know if we're pushing one aside and it really needs it. I don't know. Anyways, that's just my question.
Director.
Through the chair to, I'm going to say council at this point. We have allocated under, like I mentioned in my notes, under $70,000 per kilometer, which is significantly under the typical rate. So we're doing a lot. And that's within that $915,000 budget line item. So any addition to the program would require additional budget or the removal of a different line item or road section in that report. That report was developed directly from the 10-year from the road needs study. So it has been taken, we've taken into account the needs across the municipality. I might suggest or add, we are working on a gravel road conversion policy currently. It would provide an opportunity for us to put some parameters around what roads we would convert from gravel to tar and chip, what levels of traffic may warrant that. If there are roads that we would want to look at this year, perhaps we could do another traffic study and include these sections so we have better information at our hand before we commit to converting something from gravel to tar and chip.
Councillor Derbyshire.
I guess through you to the director, Falconbridge Drive and from Sutherland to Christina there, I know that there's a huge drainage improvement going on there that does affect the road. Will that be taken into consideration when we do this, or are we going to resurface this, then rip the road up and resurface it again? Like, when we start configuring things, you know what I mean? Like, if this drainage work isn't getting done till August and you guys do this in the spring, and then we're through the road again, and now we're putting a patchwork quilt in the middle of brand new chip and tar, like maybe that's something that could be put off till next year when the drainage work's done, and you could use that 2.5 kilometers to finish off the end of Century and do the other end of Irish. Just kind of thinking out loud, just seeing what was in front of us with drains and stuff that came forward there.
Through the chair to Councillor Derbyshire. So Falconbridge was added by visual, through visual evaluations from our public works operator. So they've driven it, and it's in pretty bad shape, and that's why they've included it, advanced it from 2030. We definitely would want to coordinate that with the drain work, and that's a good point, Councillor. We wouldn't want to do drainage improvements after we've done a tar chip. So.
And this section of road, we do understand was done 3 years ago, right? Like, exactly 3 years ago. This exact section of road. So, like, it's kind of weird that we're back at it here when it should have a longer life period, but doesn't make much sense to me.
I would just say that kind of goes to the comment that I had put forth about Innendale Drive. But that's not part of the motion. We do have a seconded motion on the floor. Do you want to read that back? It kind of got amended.
Yes, I certainly appreciate clarification as well. To Mayor Grantham, who made the initial motion to clarify, the two roads in question are Century Drive and
Irish.
Irish? Okay, I did have Irish with the question mark. So the motion before,
One moment, she's going to read the motion back to us so we know.
that the report be deferred to the next regular council meeting of March 3 to allow Mr. Ortiz to return to council recommendations regarding tar and chip for Century Drive and Irish Drive and within the current budget.
Yep. That's the seconded motion in front of us. All in favor? Hands up. I got 4, 5, 6, myself 7. Opposed? 1. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is 9.5.1, the non-union market compensation review.
Mayor?
Sorry.
I just want to correct myself with Juliana Drive, it's the dead end portion, not all the way through.
You stand corrected, Councilor. Motion to receive the non-union market comp review tender award. Someone to bring the motion. Councilor Kennis, second by Councilor Hippel. All in favor? Carried. Director Payne.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council. The report before you is a tender award for, back in December, Council provided direction to go to the tender for the compensation review as per that report. So January 27th of this year, we did post that on our bids and tenders website. Reporting back, we had 6 proposals submitted for such project. And on the reports itself, I did provide a ranking of each of the proponents, including costing. And after that review, we do recommend Pesh and Associates to be awarded for the tender award for the compensation review. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Okay. Seeing none, the motion in front of you is the council approved the awarding of the non-union market comp review tender to Pesh and Associates, Human Resources Consultants, for the value of $13,447, inclusive of HST. Someone to bring a motion. Councilor Brennan, second by Councilor Caddis. Yep, go ahead.
Sorry, I just had one question. It has nothing to do with whether they get it, don't get it. Obviously, we budgeted $25,000 for that. So will we see the remainder go back to a reserve, or does it just sit, or where will the the remainder of this go? Where will it end up?
Director Dakin.
Through the chair to Councilor Derbyshire, so whatever isn't taken out of reserve will just remain in the reserve. We built up the reserve to do this, so whatever's not taken out just stays in the reserve.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor? 9.5.2 we're going to skip. 9.5.3 is a whistleblower policy. Motion to receive the report. Councillor Hippel, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Carried. Director Payne, you wish to speak to the report?
Yes, thank you, Worship. So going back a few weeks, February 10th, strategic priorities meeting, I brought the whistleblower policy before council, and it was recommended to bring to full council to have further discussion about the attached policy. I'll leave it at that. I'm happy to answer questions of any councillor. I do want to point out one error that I did find in the formatting. It's more a formatting issue of the policy. On page 9, I missed a letter F to G, so I missed the letter F. But just want to let you know I found that, and I will fix that up.
Any questions? Councilor Derbyshire.
Thank you. I guess when this came forward and when we moved it to council, I believe that the email I had sent out would be attached. I didn't motion for it to become part of the meeting because we didn't think we needed it to discuss it, but it doesn't kind of give the other side of kind of what I was thinking more with this. I guess when I was thinking about a whistleblower policy, I wasn't really thinking about the small stuff, the kind of, I'm gonna call it the mundane stuff. I'm more thinking about larger problems that maybe have already been reported once or twice, are not getting action, and is headed in a direction probably legal. Not saying I want to remove the CAO from everything. I'll make my point. My point was that HR and the outside source should deal with this first. That would include it, obviously, going back to the CAO. Problem is, if it's about the CAO, or the CAO has dealt with this problem once or twice before and it's still arising, the CAO is now, and I'm sorry, I'm not picking on you, Rob, it's just, I'm using the CAO in here as, the CAO is somewhat, I'm going to say, involved in the situation, which you're now going to ask them to make a decision, or a director. So the policy that I emailed out that day kind of removed that and had it where HR dealt with the outside source. And again, obviously it comes back in and will be dealt with according to how their measures go, but it more kind of leaves HR in charge of this and to proceed legally and out externally that way. Whether we can work that in or not, or that, I think this is why it got sent kind of this way, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they just wanted this through. I was kind of looking for an opinion that night as to what people thought, and we just didn't have enough people to have a debate about it, or a conversation, or governance, whatever you want to call it.
So, Councillor, if I'd been there, I would have agreed with you. I think there's, the CAO thing that bothered me, there wasn't a mechanism in there for a complaint or whistleblower about the CAO, so I agree with you that it needs to remove the CAO from it as best we can, whatever language, and I do think there needs to be language for complaint, whistleblower about a CAO. So I don't know if you can rework that somehow, Director, but I do think you needs to be strengthened regarding the CAO and remove the CAO from the process of determining if the complaint go forward. Is that what you're looking for, kind of, Councillor Derbyshire?
Yeah, like basically what I had it as human resources, the quarterback. You know, and it's kind of gonna go through him. He will use, obviously, if we need legal and external, it will head in that direction. If it has nothing to do with the CAO will then be abreast of what it is. But otherwise, let HR quarterback what is essentially an HR problem, right? Like that's more kind of where I was seeing it, more in the hands of our HR department and the external, you know, legal team.
Councillor Pelkman.
Yes, if I can, through to Director Payne, is that option not in there, that they can go directly to the third party?
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Pelkman, you are correct. So process informal, first step, or formal. The member can pick what other option they feel most comfortable with. So informal is dealing through the CAO and HR quarterbacking, if you will. If a member chooses to do the formal route, that would skip internally the CAO and HR. It would go directly to our third party or investigator, and they would do the due diligence and hence bring a report back, which we could share with council at that point too.
So I had asked a question, because the way it was written, I was a little worried that a staff member might jump right to an outside party, and I was thinking like the Ministry of Environment or something like that. I wasn't quite understanding what the third party was. So I specifically asked the question, and Director Payne responded with, well, what if the complaint's about the CAO? Then it needs to be able to go. So it is in the policy as it's written.
Councillor Derbyshire, I didn't see any hands over here, so we'll go to Councillor Derbyshire.
Yeah, I do realize it is in there, but a lot of this says the appropriate authority shall ensure that human resources and the CAO, like it's and the CAO and the CAO and the CAO. I get it, we want to go that route, but I just does it. If it's about the CAO and it says to inform the CAO, what if the CAO gets informed without anybody knowing? Like, I don't know, I guess I see it as, you know, this is for somebody who's gonna come with a larger problem than just, you know, Sally keeps eating my lunch in the fridge. Like this, and I'm sorry if there's a Sally that brings a lunch. But that, like, I'm just saying, I see this as a much larger issue that we're gonna deal with here that could have legal possible ramifications that.
CAO for the first time is going to chime in, so we'll all.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would just ask maybe it be referred back and the director and I can take a look at the discussion from tonight, see how we might work that in.
Okay. Deputy Mayor.
I'll make a motion that we refer it back to staff for comments and consideration.
Someone to second. Councillor Pelkman, all in favor?
Just a comment. I mean, you know, I don't think this is ever gonna be perfect. And the problem could be with HR, right? So what do you do then? So there has to be mechanisms to work around it, and we have to make people feel comfortable enough to be able to lodge their complaints and still feel safe in doing that, and that's what it comes down to. So you know, we can argue about semantics all we want, and I appreciate taking it back to look at the wording on it, but it will never be perfect. So.
Okay, any other comments? All in favor of referral? Opposed, if any? We see the vote again, all in favor. We see some hands, there we go. Thank you, that motion is passed. Next is, so we skip 9.5.4, reports from boards and committees, committee of adjustment, then CDAC. Motion to approve those, to receive those minutes. Councillor Kettis, second by Councillor Palmer. All in favor, carried. Deputy Mayor, anything to add from the county?
Yeah, we had a couple of things. So from Director Trainee, who is our Director of Engineering, County Road, Melbourne Road, County 9, Glendon, was budgeted in 2024 for traffic lights. It got delayed because of an early winter, so that's still on the books. It's going to be done as soon as winter leaves us. Longwoods at Melbourne, it's well overdue, and it's going to be continued to look at because of sightline issues. We talked a lot about economic development in the county at our meeting last week. So there's a few things I pull out of it. 800 jobs were added in 2024 countywide. The Majority of those were in Strathroy at Norterra, Norbeck, Burnbrae in future, and shops in Sydenham. Major employers in the county, the majority again reside in Strathroy-Caradoc, places like Meridian Magnesium, the hospital, Cuddy Farms. Of course, the head farm is situated in Adelaide Metcalfe, but most of the farms are in Strathroy-Caradoc. Veriform, Catalan, Norterra, Grace Transport. So basically what it's showing is, from an economic development point of view, Strathroy-Caradoc by far is the biggest bang in the county. I think I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Inquiries and comments, we'll start with Councillor Hippel.
Thank you. Two things. First, wouldn't be an inquiry or comment without me mentioning hockey, so I'll just throw it out there. We've got all the organizations right now in hockey that are in playoffs and playdowns and all the other play words that you can throw in there, and we've got some phenomenal hockey teams in our municipality, whether it's in Strathroy and Mount Bridges, Junior C, Junior B, we've got Senior A, we've got girls hockey with Blue Water. Even the Saturday League it's just booming. So, I mean, if you're feeling kind of what should we do on any given night, hop to one of our arenas, because they're usually pretty packed and pretty busy, and it's a lot of fun. We have the coldest night of the year walk coming up on Saturday, February 22nd. 37 Frank Street, Dave Berdan puts this together, and we raise money. We've been raising money for 37 Frank Street, or the youth center. I always call it the youth center. I'm sure that's not the exact term, but they have been raising money, and they've been doing such great things for the youth in our community. And I would really encourage, with the cold weather that we've got right now, I would really encourage people to come out and join us and go for that walk and talk to Dave Berdan or any of the people that are involved, and talk to the people that are using this facility and are in need, and realize that any donations that you make, if it's a hat and coat and boots and mitts and warm places and meals, and maybe you're shoveling snow for your neighbor, like, it's just, I mean, that's separate, but at the same time, it's just being able to give, if you can give, what you can give. So Saturday, come out to the coldest night of the year walk. Come out and go for a walk. Bring your dog, bring your stroller, wrap everybody up. But do it. Let's really put forth an effort and support our community, because there's a lot of people out there that are struggling, and we should be able to help a little bit. So that's it for me.
Thank you, and I'll be right. Councillor Kennis.
I want to commend and thank staff for their work over the long weekend, moving a lot of snow. I expect a lot of them weren't home a lot during this Family Day weekend, because they were cleaning streets and sidewalks and all that kind of stuff. And with that, this has been the most snow that we've seen in a lot of years, and at the end of driveways there were huge amounts of snow, and for those who pulling out of the driveways, be careful, because you may not see that far ahead or to the side. And for those of us on foot a lot, we need to be careful too, because they can't see us when we walk between those piles either. So we need to be careful, I guess, in an area that we haven't had to be careful in a number of years. So.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. You gave me another reason why I don't. Councillor Brennan.
Just looking around, the Queen died back in 2022, and Charles was crowned in 2023. When do we get an official portrait of King Charles III for Chambers? Is that a provincial thing that's coming through? Do we have to wait for come through? It just starts to get silly. So that's just not a big deal, just amusing, you know. When do we get the official portrait? Because I think it's past time, and that's just out there to the universe.
I saw Director Littlemore writing that down. I thought you were going to ask for a picture of our president. Councillor Pelkman.
Yes, thank you. I also wanted to comment about the snow removal and two things that I witnessed with my own eyes that maybe people don't realize. Obviously, when they're doing the sidewalks, very difficult when the snow is heavy for the plow to stay right on the sidewalk, and if there's any damage, I know we go back in the spring and repair it. But what I witnessed was we had the blower attachment on, and as he went down, he maneuvered the nozzle so that he wouldn't use the blower and put it on somebody's driveway who was already shoveled their driveway. And I thought, well, that I'm sure that slowed him down a lot. But I thought, that's the kind of thing that people really go, oh God, I just cleaned it. And the other thing that I witnessed is while I was cleaning my driveway, I had parked my cars on the street. This was at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I had moved one of them back on and was still cleaning the other side when the plow came down the road, and he saw me start to walk out, and he stopped and waited for me to move my car so that he would leave all the snow on the road and I wouldn't spend an hour digging it out, and I really appreciated that.
Councillor Derbyshire.
Thank you. I just had one inquiry with our director, Ortiz. I wondered how we were making out down at Mount Bridges with what happened last week, where we're at, and whether we're moving forward or discovered how we're gonna get ourselves back up and going.
Yep. Director Ortiz.
Through the chair to Councillor Derbyshire, and maybe a quick update to council as well. There has been, as you note, Councillor, a failure of one of the RBC units at the plant. We're still in operation. We're still currently operating a single unit. Everything is being treated through the single unit. That will continue. As we know, we've been struggling with compliance prior to this failure. I expect we will still be struggling with compliance, probably worse so in the near future. We are working with a general contractor and the manufacturer of the RBCs, Napier Reed, on potential repairs. We are still ironing out the costs, timelines, and some opportunities we have there to tie into the process optimization work that we're also doing. It's not going to be a quick fix. We're likely looking at it'll be in the order of weeks, not days. I will hopefully have some additional information to provide to council in the next few days, I would hope.
Councillor Derbyshire, when's Farmers Night? You're the guest speaker.
I am the guest speaker, and I want to say it's March 6th. I hope. Perfect.
Get it out.
Thank you. I wasn't going to throw that out there. Just didn't want anyone to bring their tomatoes. So, but it's out there. Yeah.
March 6th.
March 6th. Yeah, should be a good evening.
Councillor Palmer.
Just a reminder, I believe it was posted on the municipal Facebook page and website about resources available to people who need shelter, particularly in this very, very cold time. There's resources available in the community and provided by the county. So if you know somebody who's in a precarious living situation and might need some assistance, please reach out. We wouldn't want to have an incident.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was really happy to receive a telephone call from one of our citizens who's a farmer, and he was very happy with the snow plowing that he saw, certainly in his neck of the woods. So I just want to extend that over to Director Ortiz and your manager, Walter, correct? Yes, thank you. We'll always hear from people that want it quicker, and I understand that. We haven't had snow like this in years. But I thought it was really, really nice. This gentleman took time out of family day to call me and specifically wanted me to pass that over to you. So please ensure that your staff are aware of that. They are seen, they are appreciated. Farmers Night, I won't be able to make this year, Your Worship. I will be attending a hospice gathering for the people that are trying to bring a hospice to this community. They reached out and asked me to attend, so I will be at that function. So I hope everybody has a good evening at Farmers Night. And Bo, I'm sorry I'm going to miss your what do I say? Guest speakerness.
His keynote address.
I'll fit you in there, Mike, somewhere.
Be nice.
Thank you. Hate to bring it down a little bit, but there's a reason why I want to. I'm gonna ask everybody who drives on our rural roads, on the highways, even in town, be cognizant of the school buses and the flashing lights, and there's a reason why I'll mention it. I think 2 months ago, a young child was hit and killed on Longwoods Road. Most recently, my youngest grandson stepped out when the lights were on, and if not for his older brother grabbing a hold of him, because people aren't seeing the lights or stopping. So just a simple request, folks. You should know by now what flashing red school lights mean, so please stop. So, thank you. Next meeting is our regular council meeting on March 3rd at 6 p.m. Thank you, Brianna. Council will now meet in closed session to consider matters as permitted to do so under the municipal act and is listed on tonight's agenda. The council under closed session at 7:42 p.m. to discuss the following. One item in accordance with council's procedure bylaw to approve in-camera meeting minutes of February 3rd, 2025. One item pursuant to section 239 2E 2D of the Municipal Act 2001 regarding labor relations or employee negotiations, QP bargaining. I'm also going to request that we take a 10-minute break. So call for motion the council recess at 7:42 p.m. for 15 minutes. And motion to go into closed in there too. Councillor Pelkman, second by the Deputy Mayor. All in favor, carried. Let's give time for the cameras to stop rolling. Motion that open session will resume at 7:59 PM. Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Brennan, all in favor, carried. Council met in closed session to consider matters that is permitted to do so under the Municipal Act and is listed on tonight's council agenda. The following items were considered during the closed session. One item in accordance with council's procedure bylaw to approve in-camera meeting minutes of February 3rd, 2025. The meeting minutes were approved. One item pursuant to section 239(2)D of the Municipal Act regarding labor relations or employee negotiations, QP bargaining. Council received a confidential report for information. One motion coming out of the closed session. Council approved the minutes of settlement with respect to the collective agreement between the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc and QP 107 for the period commencing January 1st, 2025 and expiring on December 31st, 2028. And further, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the agreement between the municipality and QP 107. Someone to bring a motion. Councillor Pelkman, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Carried. Okay, just those. Okay, motion that bylaw number 11-25, bylaw number 17-25, bylaw number 19-25, bylaw number 20-25, bylaw number 24-25, and bylaw number 25-25 receive first, second, third, and final reading. Someone bring a motion. Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
I have a question, if I may. Are bylaw 2025 and 2525 the same? A bylaw to govern the proceedings of council?
25.
Is that our procedure bylaw?
About 2020.
That's the procedure, on 2025 is the procedure bylaw.
Yep.
Okay.
20.25.
Yeah, 20-25 is the procedure bylaw, correct, Brianna? Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's fair. It's just in the
I was
word.
looking at the short
Yep.
titles on them and I was thinking they were the same.
Did we hit Councillor Pelkman?
I just want to note, since you're passing them all at once, that I will be voting in favor of all of them except for 2025, which I will be voting against. But since you're wrapping them all together, I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, thank you. I can pull that out if you wish.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. All in favor of those bylaws receiving first, second, third, and final reading? Carried with notation that Councillor Pelkman objected to 25-25.
2025.
20-25, my apologies.
Apologies, Chair, we did not catch the seconder for the bylaws.
That was Councillor Kennis.
Oh, Dennis?
Yeah. Motion to adjourn at 8:03.
So proxies are done now, so
Yes.
this is passed, it's
Yes.
done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Trying to get us adjourned here, Councillor.
No, that's fine, I just.
Good question.
Motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Brennan, all in favor, carried.
No, I wanted to talk about it more.
I don't believe you.
I haven't been home